大家晚上好，欢迎大家来到国际培训大咖五十谈，我是顾立民。上一期我们非常荣幸的请到了国际著名的绩效改进专家、学习发展专家 Dr. Mariano Bernardez，请他给我们介绍了培训以及绩效改进在拉美地区的情况，也同时请他介绍了罗杰 Kaufman 就是考夫曼奖具体的情况。感谢他几十年来在这个领域做出的贡献。那么，由于拉美，我们上一期的话呢，覆盖了拉美地区，所以呢，国际培训大咖五十谈目前呢已经覆盖了5大洲，所以呢，我们学习了来自各大洲的在培训、人才发展、学习发展以及在绩效改进领域的不同的做法，希望能够给大家有所借鉴。今天晚上我们请到另外一位在国际上非常知名的培训与绩效改进的专家，他的名字叫 Tim Brock。是的 ，Dr. Tim Brock， 布洛克博士。Tim 和我呢也是老朋友了。那么很久以来呢，他在这个领域里面已经有30-40年的时间了。那么他在绩效改进和学习发展方面有非常非常丰富的经验。好，下面我们闲话少叙，我们有请 Dr. Tim Brock。
Hi, Tim. How are you?
I'm doing well, George. How about yourself?
I'm doing good. Thank you. Thank you, sir. Thank you, Tim. Thank you. We're friends for a long time. First of all, on behalf of the learning development and performance improvement technologists in China over here and other developing countries, thank you and welcome to the Training Master Series.
My pleasure. Thank you for inviting me.
It is probably the closest we can get right now.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, even though things are getting better and the hope is always there.
I expect good things next year.
You bet, you bet. Tim, not everybody knows you. First of all, as usual, just for our audience, would you please introduce yourself a little bit, tell us where you grew up, where you went to college, what you studied, and where you work and live now. Thank you.
Sure. Happy to do it. Again, my name's Tim Brock, and I'm from the Pittsburgh area in Pennsylvania, and I grew up in a little town called Wolfdale. What a great place to be from, huh? Wolfdale. But I went to Trinity High School and went to the University of Minnesota Duluth to get my bachelor's degree. That's right. Got my bachelor's degree in communication, and University of Central Missouri to get my master's degree in communication again. And then I got my PhD in education with a specialization in training and performance improvement from Capella University, where now I'm also a part-time faculty member teaching in that program. But after I graduated from high school, just a little background information for you, is I enlisted in the Air Force during the Vietnam War. It's been 4 years in the Air Force where I was a nuclear weapons specialist. And after I got out, I went to school, became a medical laboratory technician. So if you ever want your blood taken, I'm still really good at it. I still got hands of steel here that I can take your blood. But
really? Next time I meet you, I will do that. I'll try
That's exactly right. But so I did that, worked in the hospital for a little while, and I went to school, was when I got my bachelor's degree. And then I got my commission in the Air Force and went back in, and I retired from the Air Force back in 1995. And while I was in the Air Force, I was a missile combat crew commander where I commanded the Titan II ICBM missile, and also commanded the Minuteman II ICBM missile for a while. And then I ended up out in California at the schoolhouse for initial qualification training, where I was responsible for all of the classroom training material and the simulation training material that they did for graduating those people to make sure they were mission ready when they got to their missile wings. And then finally, I ended up my Air Force career at the University of Central Florida, where I was with the Air Force ROTC staff, where I was the education officer and the commandant of cadets while I was there. So I retired from the Air Force, and then I kind of didn't know what I was going to do. So I became the principal of a private school, a K-5 through 12 private school. It was on the verge of collapse. They asked me to come in to turn it around. They wanted a strong leadership experience. So I came in and we were able to turn it around in 2 years rather than the 3 that we had figured on. Then after that, I went off and dabbled a little bit in the financial market, where I was a account executive for Morgan Stanley Dean Witter, and I trained up in the World Trade Center at that time. So I was working stocks, bonds, things like that, futures, those types of things. And that was boring to me. I didn't really care for it. So then I went off and worked for an engineering company, and I was the project manager for attractions, if you will. I gave oversight to creating some attractions that are used at Disney World, Universal Studios, and we even built a jungle cruise ride over in Phuket, Thailand. So I was overseeing that project. And you know, after I did those types of things, then I got on with Lockheed Martin, where I was the manager of their Science of Learning and Performance Improvement, where I managed a select team where we provided performance improvement architecture for training solutions for military, governments, different things like that around the globe. One of my first projects was I was in charge of designing the training solution for NASA's space exploration mission, where they were going to return astronauts to the moon and onto Mars. So I was responsible for the training architecture, putting that together for Lockheed's proposal for the crew exploration vehicle that was going there that we won. So, you know, I went from a skills-based competency-based approach for training astronauts, and all the folks, the controllers, the technicians, and all that. So after I did that for a little while at Lockheed Martin, that's when I got on. I kind of retired from that, and I was sitting around the house, and my wife says, "Go find something to do." That's getting you know what that means. So I went out and did my own consulting business a little bit and did a few things. And I've also worked for Ruth Clark, you know, Dr. Ruth Clark. I was the vice president of her company. I was an instructor for Langevin Learning Services. And most recently, I've been working with Jack and Patty Phillips with the ROI Institute, as I was the director of their consulting services. And now I'm a senior associate of theirs, helping with consulting work in the area of performance improvement, and also with the ROI Institute, evaluating the effectiveness and efficiencies of programs around the world. So, you know, I live here in Orlando, Florida, where I retired from the Air Force, and just loved it here, staying here, being able to work out of my home. I'm still married to the bride of my youth, my spousal unit and teddy bear for wife for over 45 years, 3 children, and
Congrats.
and 3 grandchildren. So,
whoa, congrats, even more.
Yeah, so you know, life is good. Life is good.
Yes.
And like I mentioned earlier, I also teach part-time at Capella University at their PhD and master's level for their training, performance improvement, and performance improvement leadership courses. Really trying to integrate the 10 standards of performance improvement into those programs.
Right. Well, thank you. That's a lot. I mean, that's, you know, I mean, your life and career in like 3 minutes in a nutshell.
Yeah, that's pretty much it.
Thank you so much. That's a lot, actually. Well, I want to ask you a couple questions, a couple of spots. The NASA experience. NASA, which year was that?
What year?
NASA project? With a NASA project.
The NASA project was in. It was probably in the late 2000s.
2000s, yeah.
Yeah, late 2000s.
For how many years? Like 2 years?
Well, at Lockheed, I was there for 8 years before I retired.
From Lockheed Martin.
I retired Lockheed Martin, and I'm hoping 3rd time's the charm. I hope I figure out how to really retire.
Right. I mean, you're very modest when you became an independent consultant, and it's because of your wife said something.
That's right. Yeah, out.
You're very modest. Not everybody can do that. Not every husband can do that, you know, and you have to be very fully capable, fully weaponized.
That's right.
With your capabilities and with a lot of ammunition to go out and consult.
Well, thank you.
So anyway, thank you for your intro and your modesty. And so a couple points. You're in Florida. I mean, Orlando is just a beautiful city. I've been there. Cape Canaveral, been there. Kennedy Space Center twice. Oh, I love it. Oh, that's so it's just probably 1 hour drive from you, well, from you where you are, and you're lucky. I mean, Florida is a sunshine state, and it's beautifully beautiful there. And you got the Disney, largest Disney in the world, and you got Universal Studios. So to my viewers, in front of the camera, please go to Orlando. If you have kids, you want to spend a vacation, go to Orlando. This is beautiful. It's one shot. You can go to Los Angeles as well, but this Universal Studio is a little bit smaller, and Disneyland was the first one, so the land mass is limited. But the university, I mean, in Orlando is kind of a upgraded version, isn't it?
It very much is. It's very much. You can't go to Florida, I mean, California right now, because they're kind of closed down. But so come.
That's right.
And we'd love to have you down here. We love to invite all of the tourists to come here and bring lots of money so they can leave their money behind.
Yeah. Pay off your house loans. You already paid them off already.
That's right. Take your souvenirs.
Thank you very much. You also mentioned that you worked for Ruth Clark and the Phillips. Both Jack was one, and both Jack and Patty were on the Training Master Series. I can't believe that from the ROI Institute we have 3, and you're the third one from the ROI Institute actually. And the Ruth was earlier last July, and Jack was last August, and Patty was last October, I believe. So they're all great people, great people, great people, and they're the ones that writing the textbooks. And Capella University, just for our viewers, Capella University is number 1 or number 2 online university in the United States, and probably in the world, I don't know, but in the United States for sure. The other first one is probably University of Phoenix, but Capella University is based in Minneapolis, Minnesota, my American home, George Goul's American home. So, and lots of friends at Capella University, and Tim is Dr. Brock is one of them. So Tim, you also advise the doctoral students over there. Is that right?
I do. I advise them, and I'm also the mentor for their capstone applied research projects, what they do instead of a dissertation. The attitude is that we just don't want them to write a dissertation about general research. We want, can they apply the research? So that's what it is that we have them doing, applying the research in an actual action research setting where they apply.
And also, because you worked, my first set of questions will be focusing on learning evaluation. Since you have been in this field for several decades, and the value of learning or training is one of the unsolved myths since forever, So my question to you is, in your opinion, can training's value be calculated by others, not by our own? If we blow our own horse, we're biased. And then if our clients, our business partners, or just business leaders, they calculate, is that possible for the business leaders? They calculate our training program's value.
Absolutely, they sure can. And the thing we're talking about calculating the value of training, is we understand is that value is in the eye of the beholder. The executives receive training a different value. They have a different value basis. They want to know, has training improved those key performance business indicators, those measures that they monitor and manage on a daily basis? They want to know, did training improve the value of those? The first line managers and supervisors out there, what they value that they want to see training bring is, did it improve the job performance of the people in the workforce to help them improve their key performance measures that they report up to management? So when we're talking about, can we calculate the value of ROI, the value of training to do an ROI, what we have to do is we have to show a direct link between the training program and how it improved workplace performance, and how did that in turn improve those key performance indicators. So what we have is, instead of us saying this is the value that we brought, the managers and the first line supervisors are saying, here's the value that training brought because it improved these measures, the behaviors of the workforce to improve these business performance measures in the workplace. And executives are coming back and saying that, yes, we're able to see a direct link between that and the consequence of those improved workplace behaviors have improved these business measures that we gave the training program money in the first place to try to improve. So the idea is calculating the ROI. What you do is you want to place value on the difference between how much you improve those key performance indicators at the executive level, you put a price tag on those, how much did the program cost, and then your finance people can calculate the ROI.
What we have been engaging we have been conducting research during the past 10 years about management, because performance improvement, we thought we need to solve problems and performance, our current tools, set of tools and methodologies. Sometimes, we're short of them. So we expanded, we go above beyond just performance improvement. But, maybe by definition, we all have, different perspectives of how do we look performance improvement. Maybe performance improvement include management, and in our calculation is management include performance improvement. But anyway, it's all roads leads to Rome. That's what I say.
That's right.
It's all for every organization is striving for profit, non-for-profit are all striving for profits or net profits most of the time. Well, when I interviewed Patty and Jack, they have the 5 levels, right? And they demonstrate twice actually. Demoed me the 5 their 5 levels, and also when I interviewed Jim Kirkpatrick, and he demoed his new 3rd level, the Kirkpatrick 3rd level, which he upgraded to New World model. So as I see it, that it is always that related to business, and we as learning and development professionals, how we can talk to build up direct talks to direct conversations with the CXOs, especially the CEOs, because as we see it, that in business success or profits, because they have multiple reasons, multiple efforts, and generate one result, that is the net profit or your revenue. So learning and development is like one of many. And to ATD's calculations, like learning capability can only solve 5 to 10% of the organization's problems. So I guess my question is kind of mixed up, but from multiple angles. How do we generate conversations directly with the CXOs? And the result is because of multiple efforts. It's not only like capability. So how do we, under that circumstances, how do we calculate the value of our program?
One of the things I used to teach my cadets, my officer candidates, and which they're making me feel old right now because they're all retiring after a 20-year Air Force career as full colonels. So thank you very much for that. But I used to teach them, I said, one of the things you want to do to be successful, okay, in your Air Force career, and this is any career if you want to, is go to your boss and find out what's causing them pain. Ask them, how can you help them solve a problem that they're trying to solve? And try to see the problem from their perspective. How do they define success? And then you want to work with them to solve that problem. So if we want to be demonstrating the value of our training programs, we need to start talking the language of the executives and the managers out there. They don't talk about learning. They talk about results. They talk about performance, right? Key performance indicators. So I always wondered why in the world we call ourselves learning professionals. Well, when indeed what we should be is we should be what the term performance consultants. We should be emphasizing ourselves as what we do is we improve people performance, human performance to improve organizational performance.
Right.
And we want to help solve the issues that are preventing the organization from achieving its organizational objectives, whether it be output, quality, cost, time issues, or satisfaction scores, things like that. Yeah. So how do we solve their problems? And again, to your point, very few of the problems are solved by training. And that's why we want to do a cause analysis up front to determine what is causing these problems. What are the root causes of these workplace performance issues that are underperforming that's causing these business measures to underperform. We want to be engaged in conversations where we're going to the executives and they perceive us as someone that they can turn to help me solve this problem. We're not achieving the results that we want. Help me find out what's causing it and how can we solve it. That's why it's extremely important for us. Anytime somebody comes to us with a training request of some type, we always want to ask questions about how is this aligned to improving workplace performance that will in turn improve business measure. And if they can't tell us what the key performance indicators are, then what are we doing? I used to teach a training needs analysis class when I was with learning services. And you want to ask when someone says, like, my people come to me and they want communication skills training. Can you give them communication skills training?
Yeah, we got that a lot too.
Yeah.
Everybody gets that. We got a problem. We need training.
That's right. I got to, like,
training is a silver bullet.
That's right. That's hit that magic bullet. And I say, yeah, sure, I can give you communications training. I mean, I got a bachelor's in management degree in it. Tell me, what tasks are they not performing to standard? And how do you know? What are your key performance indicators? And 9 times out of 10, they can't answer that question.
Right.
They just come down with, that's what they think it is. So we say, well, let's figure that out and let's find out what the real solution is. Because if they're not communicating, how do you know they're not communicating correctly? How do you know they could be communicating better? Let's figure that out. Let's find out what the root causes are. And then we'll come up with a solution. Now, 9 times out of 10, some type of a learning element is going to be involved.
Right.
If you change something in the organization, a process, a procedure, whatever, people got to learn about it and how it affects them on the job. But training may not be the primary solution. It could be just a simple new job aid. So one of the things that we have to do is we have to learn how to ask the right questions. And that's where we get in trouble. I think part of our problem that we have in the profession is that whenever someone comes to us and says, hey, I need training on something, all of a sudden we feel accepted. We're loved. We're needed, right? And we're willing to take it on, but it's not the right solution. And a little cynic in me says a lot of times people come to us and they ask for a training solution is because they don't know how to solve the problem and they're looking for somebody to blame that the problem does get fixed.
Right.
Well, I asked training to fix it. They didn't fix it. You know what I mean? So we got to be careful.
It sounds so familiar. I mean, Tim, thank you so much to describe the picture for us again, because it happens day after day, again and again on a daily basis in thousands of organizations each day. I can guarantee you in both sides of the Pacific Pond.
Oh, yeah.
It happens both.
Yeah, exactly. It's all over the place. And the thing that gets me is because I've been in management positions too, executive positions. And a lot of times they come to us because they don't know how to solve the problem. They're coming for help. So they come to us for training. We need to put on our performance consultant hat and saying, let me help you solve this problem.
Right. And when you tell them, when you ask them questions, just like you did, you just cited this example, and they, oh, I don't know. And then sometimes, they know, now they know they don't know. But before you ask them, they don't know they don't know.
That's right. That's right. But you want to be seen as somebody that they can come to help them solve a problem. That's what we want to be. We're a performance consultant.
So process-wise, for you to solve this problem, you're conducting the root cause analysis upfront. Is that right?
Yeah, exactly.
To see what from 2 perspectives. First of all, to ask what the CXOs or the CEOs are thinking about, what bothers them, what keeps them up at night.
Yes.
So to help them. And secondly, to pinpoint or focus on the specific tasks which you just mentioned, which is I think is very, very like a sniper shot. So we're snipering those problems, and because everybody's resources is limited, and we have to focus to be focused. Is that right? From the 2 perspectives, you conduct the root cause analysis and then find out what the root causes are and go ahead and solve it. Whatever they are, they probably be process problem, maybe team morale, maybe ergonomics, maybe resources, maybe short of budget, and capability, which is training, when we
Right.
are mentioned. And then, by the way, it was the silver bullet was from a Western movie, the
Lone Ranger.
cowboy movie, right? It was
Right,
a
the Lone
Wuhan.
Ranger had a silver bullet.
Yeah, the Rangers. So
Well,
from
you're
those two
exactly right.
perspectives. Mhm.
A lot of times what we do when we try for solving a problem and we put training out there, we take the spray and pray technique.
Right.
We try to spray everybody with the training and we pray that it fixes the problem, and that does not work. It does not work at all. So we got to zero in, and I like using various models out there. My first go-to is Gilbert's behavior engineering model to try to look at the organizational issues, which Deming tells us about 90% of the problems exist at, and then the bottom three you're looking at the human behavior issues within the individual.
Yeah.
And it helps me to bucket different things. But I also like Rumler's human performance system approach, where he took what Gilbert's taxonomy and converted it into a process. I remember I used Gilbert's model when I was asked to do some consulting with the Peruvian Air Force. They were having people coming through their pilot training program from their academies, and they didn't have airplanes available for them to fly, and they would spend their entire time in the Peruvian Air Force with no planes to fly, and then they get out and the airlines would hire them. And the airlines said, "Thank you for training these pilots for us."
Right.
So,
Why not?
Exactly. So I used Gilbert's model. I sat down with a room. I still can see it. We sat in a room, a big circle with all the commanding generals of their Air Force down there. And I was asking them questions, and I was talking about the various buckets in Gilbert's, behavior engineering model to try to figure out where the issues were, what were the root causes. And then in my report to them, I broke it down by those buckets so that we could prioritize where we needed to focus our attention to get our best return and get the best impact on it. So, it works. But what we as performance improvement experts have to have is we must have these models in our mind to help us frame our thinking and going into trying to help these executives and these leaders solve these issues, solve these problems.
So you use the BEM model more often, very often too.
I do.
What other tools or methodologies that you applied?
What other
more
tools?
often? Or what other models or tools that you use often too, besides BEM?
The BEM I use for trying to determine the what the root causes are between the executive, the business results, the business measures, and
the six boxes. Yeah,
that's right. The 6 boxes. Carl Binder's at 6 boxes. Yes.
Yeah, Carl Binder's. Yeah.
To try to figure those things out. But what I really do like, is the business alignment V model that was developed by Jack and Patty Phillips. I love that because one of the struggles I had early on in my career was, I understood, performance improvement. I understood the 10 standards, focusing on results and outcomes and all those things. And I knew the HBT model that was developed by Van Teen, Mosley, and Dessinger, gaps and things. But I didn't have a context. But when I saw what Jack and Patty did with that business alignment V model, and I saw you start with the business measures up here, whatever they happen to be. And then you want to figure out what's happening in the workplace. That model just came alive. So now that makes sense. That's where you're applying it. Because what you're focusing on is a business says, we have a problem we want to fix, and we think it's worth the payoff. It's worth investing money in to fix it. And that could be either to make money, save money, avoid costs, improve satisfaction, or doing something for societal good. Going back to Kaufman's, mega.
Right. The mega planning.
That's something that a business can decide to do at the executive level. And then the question is, okay, what has to change in the workplace to be either to make money, save money, avoid costs, improve satisfaction, or improve society? What do we have to do differently in the workplace to achieve those business measures? And the behavior engineering model, in my opinion, it works really well doing that. So does Rumler's human performance system, and even his anatomy of performance approach to looking at, where you're trying to figure out what's happening out there in the operations, the day-to-day operations of the organization. to be able to improve those organizational measures that the
Right.
executives pay attention to.
Mhm,
So
mhm.
when I go into the tools that I use is I take a look at the situation. I typically start with Gilbert,
Mhm.
and then I take a look at, well, let's take a look how it would be if I use the Rummer Human Performance System approach. And it's just a
Mhm.
different way of thinking of it as a process rather than a taxonomy. And then I look at, okay, what would be the best way for me to communicate to the management team what
Mhm.
I found as far as the root causes are concerned?
Mhm.
What's
Mhm.
the best way for them to visualize?
Right, right, right. Thank you.
So that's why it's good to know a lot of different theories and models so that
Right.
you pick the right one that works.
Exactly. That's what I'm going to hit on. Is that that's why when I said your wife kicks you out to be a consultant, you have to be really fully weaponized, fully equipped, armed with all these capabilities, and not everybody can do that. Because being a consultant, do you think that I mean, it is really hard. I mean, you don't know what the clients run into. They probably have business problem, process, probably have some professional problems, like in certain professional areas. We don't know. So that's why we come in and conducting the root cause analysis. And my question to you is, when we do the learning event learning evaluation, when they have, after the front analysis, the root cause analysis, and we try to do everything, trying to figure out the full picture.
Yeah.
And then we trying to figure out what the value of this learning program. So the question is, how do we isolate it? Because when I talked to Jack and Patty, they both mentioned the word isolation.
Yep.
You isolate, you cut it off from, because the typical question is, oh, my revenue is up like 30%. What's your contribution? Training people? So is that like 10.25 is your contribution, or 30, is like, you know what I mean, to that exact number. So how do we isolate? That's the question.
Well, that's a good question, because there's different techniques to do isolation. And the key question is why do we want to isolate? And I come back to credibility. We can't go out there and say that we put this training program in place and we improve this business impact measure. Are we claiming 100% of it? Well, everybody knows that there's a lot of people out there in the organizations trying to improve that same business measure. We're not the only ones doing that. So the question is how much of it can we claim credit for, so that we can give credit where credit's due for other people out there? And I think that it's kind of like isolation is the flip side of your cause analysis. Because in your cause analysis, you're asking the question, what's causing the substandard performance in the workplace? That's causing the substandard performance in these key performance indicators. Well, on the flip side, what we want to do during the evaluation is we want to know, well, what caused the improvement in the business measures that we have?
Yeah.
So it comes back to credibility of how can we go about claiming actual credit of what our training program did to improve it, so that we protect our credibility and we don't burn any bridges. I had a situation happen years ago where I was consulting with a company down in Phoenix, a call center for a credit card. And the training manager decided to put in place a training program to improve the sales volume of the credit card people out there, how many people they processed and answered the questions and all that. So she put together a training program to do that. And then she's briefing the results to the executives at their location, and they were great results. I mean, things shot up. And all of a sudden, the supervisor of the call center said, wait a minute, those improvements have nothing to do with your training program. I put a new incentive program in place, and that's why their improvement went up. So here's the problem: is she has egg in her face. She was claiming credit for all of the improvement out there, and all of a sudden, boom, she got undermined at the table with the executives. It would have been better for her to be working with the customer service representative supervisor to go in, and even if she didn't know about it, if she were to have isolated afterwards, and she would have said, claim credit for this portion of the impact, but there was also an incentive system that's put in place, and we discovered that it deserves this amount of credit for it. So that's why it's really important that we do those things, the isolation, and it is possible. One of the things that you can do is you can do a control group. That's the best one to do, a control group. And a lot of times you get a lot of pushback from organizations. They don't want to do control group because it sounds like a science project. But what you can do is you can use a pilot program, you know, and use the first class that you go through, or, you know, a cohort, the first cohort of a training program if you're not doing a pilot, and use them as your experimental group, compare them to an equivalent group, and then you can say, here's the difference between the two. So it's really, you know, kind of built into how we do things. You could easily do a control group. Of course, the challenge there is you got to prevent contamination from one group talking to the other.
Right.
You know, those types of things. So so if a control group doesn't work, then you can do a trendline analysis. You know, here's where
say that again. Can you repeat what analysis?
A trend line analysis.
Oh, a trend line analysis.
Yeah, a trend line analysis. So we says, okay, here's where we were before. Here's the trend, or the trend of what was happening. If we do nothing, this is the trend. So let's put this program in place. And now let's do collect the data afterwards and compare the trend line to the actual line that we have. So the difference would be, if the only thing that changed is the program, then the difference between the trend and what you actually have is, you know, due to your program. Another one you have is estimates, or I should say mathematical modeling is next. Mathematical modeling is if you have a model, you say, if we improve our marketing by X, we can say that our sales will go up by Y. Well, what happens if you see your sales goes up more than Y? Well, the difference between that and what would happen through marketing is you can claim, well, that was due to our training programs. Nothing else out there was put in place to do that. And then you can go to estimates. You can ask people. The simple question is, how much credit do you give our training program for improving your workplace performance? And how confident are you in that number? And who knows better what had an impact on their job performance than the people actually doing the job? And they're going to give you an honest answer because they don't care who gets the credit. You know, they're going to say, well, I think the training program deserves 70% credit, and the incentive system deserves 30% credit. And then we ask, how confident are you in those numbers? And they say, I'm 90%. So rather than taking the full 70%, we're going to take it down by 10% to say, okay, we're adjusting it down, because one of the things estimates, when you're using estimates that executives don't like, is overestimates. They'd rather have you underestimate. So we want to make sure that we adjust those estimates down as low as possible, again, to protect our credibility when we're reaping it to the executives. And then other things you can do is you can do talk to experts. You can look at previous studies that you've done out there on a topic, the improvement, and then you can also get customer inputs. So the bottom line is there's a lot of ways to isolate, just like there's a lot of ways to do a cause analysis. There's a lot of ways to do an isolation, but the key thing you want to do is you want to get management's agreement that they will support that isolation technique up front during the planning phase.
Great. So let me sum up. You mentioned there are 4 ways that we can do the isolation. If I'm correct, there are 4 ways. One is to stay low profile, to work with the business instead of serving as a to be a humble servant instead of the gods from the top down. You're the learning god. I mean, you're the learning god, and then save the day.
Yeah, that's right.
So yeah, and secondly, we can do the control group and do a pilot. Have a control. The third one is talk to the expert, and the fourth one is to have some customer inputs.
Yeah,
am I right?
Right.
All the 4 aspects.
You want to have at least one technique that you're using so that you protect your credibility. So you're reporting, here's the impact our training program had on the training program. They're going to say, well, how do you know that's the impact you had? Are you claiming 100% of this? And if we say, well, no, we're only going to claim 80% of it. Well, how did you get that? Well, we use a forward. Here's how we did it. Or we use a trend line. Or they go, oh, okay, that makes sense.
Yeah. The problem is these 4 techniques are good. My next question is, when you just said, when the CEO says, oh, that learning made the 30% of contribution, and then other departments say, no, they made 70% of contribution. So those are, to me, those are subjective. why should a CEO or a CXO believe those 30% or 70%? Where are they from? Are they subjective?
Well, they can be subjective, but when you're dealing with a control group, that's actual data. You're collecting actual data and comparing it between the two groups. The same thing with the trend line. That's actual data that you're collecting. Mathematical modeling, it's like I said, it's one of those math things that's over my head, but you're talking to the accounting people. So it's not coming from you. It's coming from your finance people, I should say, who are doing those calculations. This is what we come up with. And then finally, when you're getting it from the participants or the supervisors or the managers using the estimates, the question is are they credible? And while, yeah, it's not the ideal situation, we position it that, yeah, we would prefer to have a more accurate and less subjective approach. But this is nothing, and it's coming from a credible source, because who are you going to go to ask the question, how much did this training program impact your performance? But the people whose performance it impacted. And that they should have no bias in preferring one over the other.
Yeah, did that ever happen to you before, that a control group control group, there is a special technique. That's your selection of the control group, how to follow, how to track, how to pull the data, and how to data mining, and then present the report and all that process, which is good. But as you just said, the CEO doesn't care who did it, or whether you did a control group or non-control group. You did like when we do large, maybe 5% of the target audience, maybe 10%. It depends on the actual situation. But probably the CEO, CEO doesn't care. You just said, which is, I think, is absolutely true. They don't care who did it. Just give me the results.
That's right.
Give me the result. The whole results, nothing but results. That's what the CEO say. It's just like when you walk into the dentist, they give you the tooth, the real tooth, nothing but the tooth.
Nothing but the tooth. That's right. Well, the thing is when a CEO, let's say a CEO is sitting around the table and they've had an improvement in one of those business measures, the CEO is going to ask, well, what happened? How did we get this? I want to know how I can spend more money in doing these kinds of things. And if you give the CEO data on what actually caused this improvement, like what caused the performance deficiency, what caused this improvement, how does the CEO know whether they need to be spending more money? And a lot of times when we're coming with how much credit do we give to a different program or project out there, a lot of times we use what I call the TLAR method. You ever hear the TLAR method? That's TLAR.
TLAR method. Okay.
Yeah, the TLAR method. And that means that method is that looks about right.
Okay.
In other words, you're guessing. You're kind of going, man, I think that looks about right. Yeah, I think we'll give that one 70. We'll give that 60. But what do you base it upon? Base it upon, basically that's just what you think. But here, by using these isolation techniques, we've got something to back up what we're saying. Is we're just not making this up. This is not coming from us in the training department. The control group is real data that's coming from your folks, from your data. Same way with mathematical from finance. The experts, the estimates, it's coming from the people who went through the course, not us. See what I mean? None of the data in isolation is coming from the training department. It's not us saying, it's from the organization.
Did it ever happen to you during your decades of career that did it happen to you that the control group data, even the control group data looks very rosy, and then the actual organization, the whole organizational performance is not that great? Did that happen to you before?
Well,
control group is only a sampling,
That's right. Well, one of the things, again, you have to be taking a look at is the barriers that might be preventing, people from applying what they learn, and the enablers are in place. But when you're looking at the organizational measures, if they're not improving as much as you think it should be, then we got to ask the question is, okay, well, what other factors out there in the organization are preventing those business measures from improving? We gave people the knowledge and skills necessary to improve their job place performance. And we have data that shows that their workplace performance actually did improve. And we're also able to link those improved workplace behaviors to improved business behaviors, not behaviors, but indicators and measures. But if those measures didn't go up as high as we wanted, we go, well, training took it as far as it could. So something else out there must be affecting that impact measure. And that's one of the things that we try to figure out when we're doing our evaluation is not only are we isolating the impact of the program, but we're also trying to find out what those barriers and enablers are that prevented the application of what they learned on the job. Just like when we're doing our cause analysis, we're looking for barriers or enablers that are what are preventing them from doing their job to the level that they want, that we try to overcome.
This is a really good a pathway to lead to the next set of questions, which is performance analytics, which is very big in your recent years' efforts. And in recent years, you've been focusing on that. So tell us a little bit about it, and what is performance analytics? What does it do? And I know it's related to what we have been talking about, but can you give us the one-on-ones?
Sure, no problem. Well, when you think about it, what we hear a lot out there in our profession is learning analytics, okay? And what do they look at when they're looking at the organization? They look at business analytics. Well, what is between learning, what's between learning and business? And that is right here, and that is performance. So my point was, is what we should be really doing is focusing more on performance analytics of what's happening on a day-to-day basis in the workforce. Where are people performing their tasks and their jobs to a standard, and where are they not? What behaviors are they exhibiting in there that's to a certain standard? So that we can identify where there's gaps in performance to create training programs that will address those performance gaps in the workplace that will improve those business measures that the organization is taking care of. You know, the article I wrote a few years ago was called Performance Analytics, the Missing Big Data Link Between Learning Analytics and Business Analytics. And I think one of our issues of, you talk about how do we show the value of what we're doing in learning is we're missing the missing link. And that missing link is showing how have we affected improving workplace performance? Well, the only way we're going to be able to do that is by having the analytics data coming in from the workforce that informs us as to how much did we improve the workplace performance. And there's different tools out there that you can use because we're talking about behaviors most of the time. And what are different things that you can use to collect data on behaviors? Well, one tool you can have is you can look at competency-based 360s. You know, not only are you getting the perspective of the individual, but you're getting the perspectives of their supervisors, their peers, and their subordinates, you know, their direct reports, to find out, okay, where are they performing standard? That way you can tailor your training solutions to the performance needs of individuals and teams, rather than just rolling out a course and it's, you know, a one-size-fits-all approach. So I think what we're looking at, we should be moving into is more of a performance analytics focus, and the impact that business analytics has when it's linked to the business analytics.
By saying that, I searched on the web, and also is there a model? Do you have a model for performance analytics, or process-based or concept-based model for how do we do it, and specific tools and specific pathways or perspectives? How do we do that?
Yeah, I talked about that a little bit in my article that I wrote, and the big thing we're looking at here is we're looking for workplace behaviors, we're looking for workplace evaluations, and then we're looking for big data analysis insights that we're collecting. And a tool that I was using, and I still like out there, is a tool called OnRoll. And it's really big in the healthcare industry right now. And what they do is,
can you spell it for me?
OnRole.
Okay.
And it's by a company called Ensemble. It's ONSOMBLE. And what they do is they have a suite of products where it's competency based. They do leadership, and they do your healthcare professions, and they take a look at assessing using a 360 instrument. It's instantaneous. So as soon as you take this, It's like Facebook Fast. As soon as you plug it in, it automatically
Mm-hmm.
goes, and you have your analytics on the screen
Mm-hmm.
in front of you, so a manager or supervisor can look at it right away.
Mm-hmm.
You kind of have your finger on the pulse of your organization's daily workplace practices based
Mm-hmm.
upon the analysis come in, and it helps you
Mm-hmm.
to identify in certain competency areas, where should we be focusing our attention? Should we be
Mm-hmm.
focusing our attention on leadership? Should it be focusing in on communication skills? Should it be focusing in on some other area? And not only does it help you to look at it from an organizational perspective or even an enterprise-wide, it can help you break it down by location. It can help you
Mm-hmm.
by discipline, by function area, by team, and by individual. So what this tool allows us to do is it's performance analytics that informs the learning folks out there what the needs are of the organization, but it also helps the senior executives take a look at this performance analytics and compare it to their business analytics. And you go, this could be a reason why we're having an issue in this area over here, this business measure, because take a look at what's happening at this hospital X over here.
Mm-hmm.
They're really having some issues in leadership. And we're seeing that showing up when we compare it to other hospitals, because they're not having that issue.
Mm-hmm.
Without the performance analytics, they're guessing.
Mm-hmm.
Now they have data that helps them to do that.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's the field that we could really be working ourselves into, performance analytics, to, again, continue to focus on linking what's happening in the workplace, because that's what we're supposed to be affecting, and
Right.
linking that and aligning it to what's happening in the organization and helping executives see the connection.
Yeah, yeah. Great. I think between what you said, between the business analytics and the learning analytics, in the middle, the gap is performance analytics. I think that's right on.
Yeah,
That's right on.
Doing performance improvement. That's what we're supposed to be doing.
Exactly. You have been doing so many performance improvement projects. In your experience, what is or are the most critical steps for a performance consulting project?
When I take a look at steps of performance consulting, I always go back to the 10 standards of performance improvement.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's my home plate. That's my anchor. I always go back to that. In everything that I'm doing, I relate, where am I in the 6 process step standards? But the most important ones that we have to do, I think, are the 4 principle-based ones. The first 4,
Right.
What we call
RSVP.
That's right, RSVP plus. Roger Addison came up with that. We got to focus on results and outcomes. That's what the executives expect us to do, and that's what the middle managers and first line supervisors expect. Focus on results that the executives want and the outcomes that the first line supervisors want. So the R, results. The S, we got to take a systemic perspective. We got to be looking at all the parts and pieces of the organization to understand how everything is affecting what we're trying to do. So then we're going to be looking at partner. We got to partner with the various stakeholders out there. We talked about value. We have to define what value looks like through their eyes, so that we know how we can deliver value to them, that they're going to say, good job. It was worth the money, giving you the money, and then that was the partnership one. And then the value, we have to add value. And when we're adding value, again, I go back to value is in the eye of the beholder. So that's why we partner with them, to find out how they define value. So, and then the plus at the bottom of it is we have to be solution neutral. The old adage out there, if the only tool you have is a hammer, then every problem looks like a nail. Well, we have to go in this with an open mind. So we don't know what the answer is. And typically when we do a root cause, we typically find out that root causes come in 3 and solutions come in 4s. So we have to have an open mind. We don't know what the 3 are, and we don't know what the 4 are. So that's kind of my approach whenever I'm doing consulting work.
Yeah, I really love what you said. Value is in the eyes of the beholder. Originally, the beauty is in the eyes of the beholder.
That's right.
And beauty is value, sometimes the same thing,
Yeah, that's right.
And also solution neutral. Can you elaborate a little bit about that, on that? Solution neutral.
Well, solution neutral is one of the problems I have with a lot of vendors is when they come in to do for consulting work is, lo and behold, after they do their analysis, they just happen to have the solution, one of the things that they're selling. It's a product that they have. So they come in biased, because their idea is that they want to sell you their solution. Maybe their solution is the right answer, but maybe it's not all the correct answer.
Right.
When I go into, I don't sell any solutions. I don't have a product that I'm selling. When I come into them, I says, my job is to come in here is to help you identify, okay, what is causing the problem? I had a boss that I used to work for at Lockheed, and he used to go around saying, just make the bad people go away, right? So that's what I try to do is I try to come in and say, well, what are the bad people doing that's making you want them to go away? What's causing the pain right now? And once I found out what the pain is, the root causes, let's figure, okay, what's the best solution or solutions to resolve this issue to make sure it's aligned with addressing the business measure, and what's the best way to implement this solution so that it's going to be people are going to say, hey, this is great, I can use it, I want to use this out there, and it's going to be successful. So that's what I try to do. And then at the other flip side is I evaluate, was it effective? So I don't care what the solution was. All I want to know is, okay, did we identify what the problem was? Did we come up with the right solution? Now let's evaluate it at the end and find out how well the solution did to achieve the objectives that we expected to achieve, to deliver the value that each of the stakeholders wanted. And at the end, we'll say, this is what worked, this is what didn't work, this is what we can do better. And we turned that evaluation into a process improvement.
Right. That solution neutral, what you just described at the very beginning, the phenomenon that we had was that phenomenon. I have a hammer. I see everything is a nail. I see everywhere it's a nail phenomenon. That mode, and that is not a good mode.
No,
because well, you have been working. Gosh, you have been working in served clients from over 60 countries, 60. Not 16, but 60 countries.
60, yeah, with Jack and Patty I have, yep.
So I don't think so many people can say that, but so you have served, I guess, must be including all the developed countries and developing countries and probably underdeveloped countries.
Yeah, I have.
If I'm correct, it's all spectrum of countries around the world. So what do you find them in common? And when you work with them, I mean, their business.
What I discovered is no matter where you are in the world, people are people. Everybody out there has the same, we all want the same thing. Okay. What do we want to be? We want to be successful in life. We want to be loved. We want to love. We want to achieve a common goal for within an organization. And organizations are organizations. They're people. And they're trying to figure out, how can we be successful? How can we take care of our employees? How can we be successful to servicing our customers out there? So it's all basically the same. What's different a lot of times is the resources that they have available to them to do those things, and how equipped their employees are to perform at the level that's necessary for them to perform at, because sometimes you have people out there that don't have a great education system. So what we have to do to compensate for that, so that we give them the knowledge and skills necessary to be successful. Sometimes it become cultural issues that we have to be sensitive to out there. What works in one country may not work in another country. But it's the same way with people. You can have two people sitting side by side. You give them a solution that's going to work for one person, but not the other person.
Right.
So the way I look at it is, when you go into any organizations are people, it's always about relationships. You treat everybody out there with dignity, respect, and honor, and assume the best in everyone, and follow the golden rule, if you will, and just listen. What can we do together? What can we do together? So that's the big thing I looked at. The bottom line is still the bottom line in organizations, but we have to be sensitive and respectful of the people, no matter who they are.
One further question. You have how many? Let me ask you, what kind of portion that you served the Eastern and West, if we divide them into East and West countries, and the Asian countries are the rest of the world. How many? To what percentage have served the Asian countries?
Asian countries right now it's relatively small. Of course, we got the pandemic going, But we've done some work in Singapore and in Taiwan. I don't think we've really done much in China right now, but there's been work that's been done in these Asian countries. But we, try to expand to those areas as the opportunity allows. Is what we're looking. But we've been on every continent. I've been on every continent and worked in every continent. It's just that my first trip to China was a couple of years ago when I was the keynote speaker at the ISPI conference in Beijing, which I loved. It was great. So
Yeah, my question was, I sorry I didn't ask the right question. To what percentage, like 10% and 20%?
I would say probably 10% in Asia.
10%. Yeah. The reason I'm asking is, do you find anything different from, because the Asian economy is booming, is still growing. The Chinese economy, the fourth quarter is 18% GDP.
Wow.
18.3, the fourth quarter. So it's just like, when I saw the data, it's like, I was amazed. A lot of people got amazed. I mean, 8% is big, very big time. But so the reason I'm asking is, well, is there any cultural difference between the way of thinking? We try to get into, business is business and business models are business models. The business ways are business ways. But when you do projects in different countries, do you run into different thinking, different ways of thinking, or different ways of figuring out things?
Yeah, I do. As a matter of fact, when I'm dealing with different countries, they approach them differently. It's how they view things from their culture and how they were brought up. In India, they perceive things differently than we do here in the United States.
Of course.
Yeah. So even in the UK, they perceive things differently.
Oh yeah.
Than what we do in the United States. When I was in South Africa, their attitudes were completely different. I remember I was doing a workshop in South Africa, and all of a sudden I'm middle of talking. All of a sudden, the whole class gets up and they walk out, and I'm sitting going, "Did I say something to offend them? What's going on?" And someone who was, they says, "No. It's 10 o'clock. It's tea time."
So it's automatic. Whatever is on the agenda, but the hidden agenda is a must do is the tea time. Tea break.
I learned that one. I adapted their culture on that one, but So again, that goes back. You just got to be sensitive and understanding people. Hopefully they'll explain some things to you early on. But I remember when I was in the Air Force, we were working on a situation, and I was working with someone from the Moroccan Air Force. And another captain and I were going down this one path to solve this problem, and he was suggesting another path from a different perspective. And we were, that's good, Mustafa, that's good. And then we went down and we found out later on that he and I were wrong and Mustafa was right. And that's why I'm going, we should have listened to him. Even though he was coming from a different perspective, he had the right perspective. So that's why whenever I go into a situation, someone has a perspective that's different from mine, particularly from a different culture, I always listen.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely. I run into that very often too. When I perceive things differently, when I find out there's differences from perceptions from other people, I just shut myself off. Just listen. Because something that they have been through, probably if I don't listen, I'll pay the same price. They're telling me what their lessons are.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Yeah. Anyway, so we're moving. We're finished. I finished these two set of questions. So they're great answers. Thank you so much. How do you predict the pandemic will impact our field? That's a big question, I know, but I just want to get your thoughts on that.
I personally think that this pandemic will increase the importance of our profession if we focus on performance and not learning, because learning is a means to an end. And whenever we talk about learning, executives and managers, they just shut us off. They go, "That's your thing. I'm paying you to take care of that. But if we start talking about performance and their key performance indicators, now we're talking their language. Like you said, no one knows what the future holds out there. Yet organizations still require people to get their job done, and they still want people to perform at a high level. Now we're getting a lot more technology out there. I mean, look at what we're doing right now with a Zoom call. I mean, technology is really amazing, but we got to be careful that we don't get distracted by the shiny objects out there of the technology. We want to be high tech, but we still want to be high touch. Again, organizations about relationships. So I think that we got to remember to keep our focus on the purpose of why our profession exists. And we exist to improve human performance, to improve organizational performance. And as long as we are doing that by whatever means that we have out there, whether it's, we're in remote locations, we're working from home, we're in an office or whatever it is, if we continue to focus on how we're adding value to the organization, and value is defined by the various stakeholders through their eyes, I see a bright future for our profession in spite of what the pandemic's doing. It's just causing organizations to stop and pause and go, wait a minute, what are we doing? Where are we spending the money? And we can step up and say, hey, we can help us to make those decisions to define, okay, is this program worthwhile continuing? Let us evaluate it, determine what value it's bringing to the organization. Are we having problems over here? Let us do an analysis. It needs analysis and a performance analysis to determine, is this the right solution? Do we need to make some tweaks to it? So, I mean, we could play a really critical role in the future of our organizations and improving society as well.
I really love what you said. Learning is not a means; is only a means to an end. Because that really coincides with what I have been saying. I said, training is not the end, but a means to an end.
Right.
And for over 20 years, I always put this up on the slides. When I do it, and I do the performance improvement workshops, and I always trying to figure out where did I find that? Where did I read it? I know I read it from a book. And guess what? Doing this training master series, I found out
really
where I read it. Yes, it was from Dr. Robert Brinkoff.
Oh, well, there you are.
There you are, from one of his books, High Impact Learning.
Okay.
And I give the credit to him. What his original said is, training is not the end, but a means to an end. Training is only no, evaluation is only is not the end, but it means something like that. But so I changed it. So I wordsmithed it. So here we are. We're all in the same trench.
That's right. Well, we like to do proper attribution, but something I learned a long time ago in the world of training is to steal with pride.
Well, say that again.
I says one thing I learned about training, and if you see someone doing something that you really like, steal with pride.
Oh yeah.
Proper attribution, but steal with pride.
You betcha. You betcha. You betcha. That familiar from Proud Minnesota and Duluth.
You betcha. That's right. Don't you know?
Woofta.
Woofta. That's right. Woofta.
That's a proud Minnesotan, and I really like what you said. It's really we not only need to pay attention to technology, but something behind the technology, the value. Yeah. To just update you, yesterday I was at a workshop. I was running a workshop, and at a major bank of China. In China, and then the executive, the head of that institute, he said, in China, the learning industry, I mean, learning and the education industry is is a whole, that includes piano classes and drawing classes, dancing classes, all that, on the education side, and also occupational training, and also within organizations, learning and development within organizations. That's the third largest industry in China.
Wow.
Third largest industry in China. The first one is he's a bank, one of the major banks in China. He's a top executive, and his data is accurate, I believe so. His calculation, number one industry is, guess what? Real estate, 3 times the size of the third one. The second one is hospitality, food, restaurants, hotels. Of course, we got so many people.
Makes
And the
sense.
third one, learning and education training industry as a whole. If they want to take, TOEFL or ACT test, they go to training. Those are calculated as one industry, like the organizational training. And the auto industry is very huge. It's China's auto industry is world's #1 right now. It can barely catch up with the learning industry. So that's why what I said, I really like what you said, the value, because if we don't create value, those market doesn't belong to us.
That's right.
The market only, it's a long run. It's a marathon. We can rely on some, techniques or tricks to make some quick money. Some people do, but you and I don't. We don't. We know it's a long run because it's a long journey, and people will only recognize that sustainable growth and sustainable mechanisms that support for their sustainability, for the continuous growth.
Yeah.
Anyway, we're coming to the end, near to the end of the conversation. This is a great conversation. I really like it. But I have to ask you, if you had a chance to start all over again, what would you have done differently? Just make sure that the old no bosses is around.
Start over again. Well, and I take a look at my life story and all the things that I've done. I don't know what I would do differently, because if I'd done something differently, I wouldn't be here right now with you. But I think if I had a chance to start over again, what I would have been what I would have been done differently in my life is I would listen more. I like Lincoln. President Lincoln, paraphrasing the book of Proverbs, said, I'd rather be silent and have people think me a fool than to open my mouth and remove all doubt. So, I think I've said a lot of things that I've regretted in life, that I've later had to apologize for. And believe me when I tell you that humble pie does not taste good. But the other thing too is because it causes hurts in relationships, and again, like I said, where people were about relationships. But the other thing too is when you're talking, you're not learning, you're not listening and learning from other people. So going back to what I said about other people's perceptions and their cultures,
right,
coming from, if you're dominating and you're talking all the time, you're denying yourself the opportunity to learn from other people, to inform your thinking, and then you can contribute your thoughts to the conversation so that you can come up with a solution that is a consensus of other people's thinkings. So listening, I think, listening is really important. I wrote my my master's degree thesis on listening, so I understand the background.
Really?
Yes, I wrote a program for the Air Force at the time, and so that's really kind of got it into me what the importance of listening and why we should listening. Now, it doesn't mean that I apply it all the time, but I know better. So I think really what's critical for us is if we spent more time listening than talking, I think we'd all be a lot better off. And I think this is especially true of a lot of the politicians.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I watch a lot of CNNs and C-SPANs and stuff,
Okay.
trying to catch up.
Well, then you know.
Thank you. Listening is really very important. And the older we get, the more we know the importance of listening rather than talking.
Yeah.
The younger, while I was young, I'll just keep talking and showing off how much I know. I'm great.
That's right.
No.
That's right.
No. The older you get.
And the sad thing about it is when you take a look at our education system, listening is the dominant communication skill, followed by talking, then reading, then writing. But how our school system set up? It's a reverse order. We spend most of our time in education learning how to write and read, and then we spend a little bit of time in speaking. And how much training, how much education have we had on how to be better listeners? Zero. None. So our education system's upside down, and we wonder why we're not good listeners today. Because we're right. That's why I think that we need to do something to improve our listening skills and read books, listen to tapes, do whatever we can, and just
I think in both. I think it's both. I think it's both. We need to foster their skills of how to make presentations, how to speak up, how to speak, and at the same time, when they need to listen, they have to acquire both skills. I think.
That's right. So when we're dealing with interpersonal communication, listening is the dominant skill because you're not the one that's talking all the time. Now, when I'm doing a presentation, I certainly hope the people in the audience are practicing excellent listening skills.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's the field that you're in right now.
Yeah.
So it's just my personal thing. If I could do things over again, I would try to be a better listener.
All right. Yeah. Thank you. So as a closing statement, Jim, do you have any advice to young practitioners? I know that we talk about listening, but do you have other advices to young practitioners in our field?
Yeah, I think expression I learned a long time ago was the greatest tragedy in life is climbing the ladder of success. And then when you get to the top, you realize you climbed the wrong ladder. So, what we want to be careful about is, I think you've chosen in the field that we're in a very noble profession.
Yep.
You also have to understand that what you value changes the higher you go in the organization as you get older. And that's okay, because what you learn in the ISPI, the 10 standards of performance improvement, are going to be things that you can use no matter what position you're in, what level of the organization you're in. We're all about how do you as a supervisor, or how do we as performance improvement professionals, how do we improve human performance to improve organizational performance? And you're going to be a better manager, you're going to be a better executive as you do that. And when you're climbing that ladder of success, no matter when you get to the top and you look around, maybe it wasn't exactly what you were looking for as your professional life, but that's why I say that you have to stay true to yourself, no matter to your personal values, no matter what ladder you're climbing. For me, it's faith, family, and friends. So be kind to people, because as you're going up in an organization, you never know who you're going to meet. Someone that you maybe passed over earlier and you weren't nice to could be in a position where they're going to be the one making a decision about your next job. So you want to be kind to everyone out there, follow the golden rule. And remember, we are in the people business. Because life is about relationships. So, I think the advice I have is build your relationships, be seen as a person that people can count on to get things done, that you're trustworthy, that you're honest, and that you're just a person that people enjoy being around. And I think that will take you far. In other words, don't be a jerk. People think being a jerk is what you need to be mean to get up. Now you don't. No.
Right.
These guys and gals do finish first.
Right. I've seen that. Somebody, the reporting lines flipped, and then they become his boss because he moved up to the other part of the, other BUs and got promoted quicker than his previous boss, and then he came back and moved up. So anyway, it happens in big organizations. Yes, we are in the business, so be nice to people because you don't know, somebody you disliked probably is going to make a decision about your own career in the future.
You never know.
You never know. So thank you so much, Tim. It's a great conversation. I really enjoyed it.
Well, thank you. I really did too. This is fun.
Yeah, this is fun. And there's a lot, a lot of thought and a lot of things to look up, and a lot of information that's packed. I really hope that in the future, the performance analytics will boom, will have more people to use it, and to get more pragmatic, tool oriented, and then for us to have something to grasp and then apply it right away, and then people can use it in organizations. Because of what you said, between business results and learning, and this learning is where we came from, and business results is where everybody's going to. So between that is performance analytics. Right on.
I think so.
Yep. Thank you so much.
My pleasure.
And enjoy the Florida sunshine.
I shall do that. I think I'll go out and hop in my pool right now.
I'm jealous. I'm starting to get envious.
All right, George.
Thank
Thank
you.
you so much. Take care.
Thank you, and to see you soon.
Sounds
Thank
great.
you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye now.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
That's my interview with Dr. Tim Brock. How do you feel? I feel that, again, I've learned a lot. During our interview just now, we covered a lot of topics. We covered about training evaluation, because he's also part of the RI Institute faculty there, and he's also senior consultant. And also we talk about performance improvement, especially his new performance analytics. What is performance analytics? And also what are common among different cultures when he conducting performance improvement projects. Thank you, Tim. Thank you for your excellent sharing. Thank you for your abundance of experience. And we would like to hear more from you again in the future. Next week, we are going to interview another guru, and his name is Dr. John Turner. Now, he invented something called flowchart. What is a flowchart? What does he do? What value does he create?